The next thing I want to look at is one of the modules out of this series of NR Plant 0200 standards, and the one I've chosen to look at is module P501, Systems of Work. In simple terms, what you need to be aware of is that the old rules that we used to use for no mechanical plant within 3 meters of the running edge no longer apply. The hierarchy is somewhat different. We have to adopt different procedures for working out what is safe to do when working adjacent to open line, and what is not safe to do working adjacent to open lines. This has, I think, come to us a little bit by stealth, but we are certainly dealing with it very actively at Ipswich. So I think it's worth going through the standard in a fair bit of detail with you, and getting you to understand how you can work adjacent to open lines, but you have to put additional control measures in place. Quite how this will affect our normal working on platform extensions, where in round terms we set up a barrier at 2 meters from the running edge and work behind that with a small plant and small items of materials and manual labour. I think that will still continue. The issue will be is when we're doing that and we're using a mini excavator, where that mini excavator needs to be positioned relative to the open line, the adjacent open line. So, module P501. The standard definitions, defines all the people that have to hold the relevant Sentinel card competencies, and there's a number there of about 10. A planner, a lift planner, machine operator, machine driver, machine controller, crane controller, maintainer stroke fitter, slinger, banksman, portable, transportable or mobile plant operator, plant operator's license holder, principal contractor, ES, COS, PICOP and PICOS. They are all Sentinel competencies. So it's getting a little bit of a minefield in making sure that we check all these competencies before people get on or about the railway. So that's the first thing, is to make sure that those competencies are in place. The next process is one of risk mitigation. The requirements are quite simple, really, that we must do full risk assessments for all operations when we're working adjacent to lines that are open for trains running. And it will include things like vehicles plant or machinery overturning, plant or machinery getting out of control by whatever means, and also plant and equipment limited in its use, i.e. it can't slew or lift close to the railway. All those are covered under risk mitigation and are measures which we should be considering putting in place for the various operations. The precursor to this is that we have a document safe system of work. I'm sure that you're aware of these safe system of work packs that the possession planning team produce. That will still carry on. But it is an iterative process. I'm sure that people will understand that the There are 6 stages to that as a formal process, and it goes in a circular pattern. So don't think that once you have a safe system of work, that is the be all and end all. It has to be checked to make sure it's applicable to the situation in which you are thinking you're going to be in, and it should also be checked against the actual situation that you find yourselves in. And if it doesn't work, then the golden rule is you stop, you readdress the risks, and come up with an amended method of doing the work, which needs to be accepted by the people on site in control of the site, and then briefed out to the people who are doing the work. So the risk assessment part of it is quite important. I'm sure that you are all aware of the principles behind risk assessment and the scoring systems that can go with it. So I won't dwell on that, other than to say it is a requirement of the procedure. Working with on-track plant can be with or without a line blockage, as I'm sure you're aware, i.e. you can have plant sat on one track and the adjacent line is open to traffic. We don't often come across that situation, but I think it's true. It will be true to say that we'll come across it more and more in the future as there becomes more and more pressure to do work during normal working hours without the benefit of possessions. So you need to understand that for the general civil engineering work that Spencers do, I don't think there will be too many circumstances where we are working on lines open to traffic where we haven't got a possession. However, where we have got a possession, we will be working with, it's very likely that we'll be working with lines open to traffic, and that traffic will either be engineering trains passing through our work site to go to another work site within the possession, or it will be our own spoil trains and the like, road rail vehicles working on the adjacent line. So it's very important that you do understand that this is not, these rules equally apply to the operational railway and the engineering railway during times of possession. So the principle of what we have to set up with this adjacent line opening is its separation between any part of the plant and the fouling point of the nearest line open to traffic. So the word fouling point is now key, and you have to make an assessment and work out where that fouling point is. And then you have to have a separation distance between the plant that's working and the fouling point. So is that clear? So you have the nearest point that you have next to the line open will be the fouling point, and then between the fouling point and where the plant is working there will be a separation distance. There are tables within the standard which will give you guidance on that. The assessment that needs to be made needs to be based on what the machine is going to be doing when it works correctly, what effect any load or attachments that the machine is carrying have on either the separation on the separation zone. Clearly, if you've got a load which is swinging, you either need to control that load or you need to allow a greater distance of separation. Okay. The conditions when working with an adjacent line opening The conditions apply if you intend to work with an adjacent line open. So that work cannot foul an open line, even in the event of human error or system failure. Then the next category is work that has the potential to foul an adjacent line that will require additional controls. So, what does that mean? Well, it's back to looking at what this fouling point is, and that's the nearest distance to which anything that will not safely approach any open lines. There is a section in the standard, section 3.3 and 3.2, which gives you an estimate of the working clearances and the fouling point. And if you look at table 1 in the standard, there has to be an assessment of the cant and curvature of the track. As I'm sure you'll appreciate, a lot of the clearance dimensions that are given in the standards are based on straight and level track. And in reality, there isn't a lot of the network that is straight and level. Most of it is on a curve, and most of it has some form of cant. Both of these features will affect the clearance and hence the fouling point of the nearest plant. So, for example, the fouling point ranges on straight, and this is before any allowance on cant, ranges from 900 millimeters to 1400 millimeters. So the closest distance you can work on straight and level track is 900 millimeters. That is where the fouling point is. That's the calculation of the fouling point. You then need to have clearance beyond the fouling point. So if you go through the worked examples on 3.3.2 and 3.3.3, it will give you all the help that you need to establish where the fouling point is and hence what the limits of machine operation can be. At Ipswich Cord, what they have looked at is on this embankment widening they're doing, they have looked at limiting the size of plant that they're going to use so it does not come within the fouling point. Additionally, you need to remember that you may well have overhead line equipment which is either live or under isolation. Certainly if it's live, the 2.75 metre rule would need to apply, and that of course will make sure that you're not within any fouling point of adjacent lines open to traffic. So it's early stages for this, and you need to go through this module of the standard and understand what the rules are, but it has changed. And there are also a number of points that have to be taken into consideration. All I can say is that some of the rules that we used before, i.e. Any plant and equipment working next to the track must have the tracks parallel to the track, so in the event of there being a mishap, the plant will not automatically mount up onto the track, it will go in a line parallel to it. Those sorts of common sense approaches still apply. You can expect to have a greater requirement for excavators to be fitted with slew restrictors. This is something which I suspect will require a premium on hiring equipment. The normal construction issue excavators, 360-degree excavators, will not have slew restrictors on them. There may be circumstances in which you've got to have them. And equally, there will probably be more requirements to have dead man handles and the like, so in the event of an operative becoming ill or unable to work the machine, it automatically cuts out. These are all things which now that we have to consider when we're working on lines open to the railway.